So these days we see people sometimes struggling about what the core values of ANPUD is or should be. So there are many issues that people who use drugs face in our region, and maybe that is why also everyone has their own perception of this should be the focus of ANPUD or this should be the core values of ANPUD. But I want to ask you, what were the core values of ANPUD when it was really conceived at that time?
If I cast my mind back to that time, there has been a huge amount of change in our region, from the political, the policy, the funding environment. At that point of time, if you looked around, there were no networks, there was no organized group of drug users. Perhaps there was in Indonesia, but nowhere else really an organized group. So at that point of time, the principal focus for the network was to generate interest for people to join up, because with more people in it, we have more power or whatever, to be the sort of voice for Asian drug users who are very, very badly disempowered here. Asia is a very difficult, many countries in Asia has very difficult environment for drug users. And just the fact that if you are identified as a drug user, it causes you so much trouble and problems. Like, you can look at Thailand in 2003, you look at what's happening in the Philippines just now. So that was the environment. China, Vietnam, there were what they call compulsory centers for drug users in 11 Asian countries, which turned over about 1 million drug users each year. So it was a very, very difficult environment to set or to do anything, to try and get some facilities. There were very poor harm reduction services. There was no feelings of we can do it if we just organize ourselves. People were frightened really to expose themselves to all that. So in that environment, it was to give a voice to Asian drug users, to represent the needs, and to empower people to take their own destinies in their hands rather than leave it for others to decide. So that was the focus. I must say, I come from a history of drug use, and I've had forced into numerous treatments in psychiatric institutions, in rehab sort of facilities, in hospitals, detox rehab, and that was my sort of learning ground there. I probably have a MD in drug treatment just through my own experiences. I'm from a middle class background, so I didn't really have to suffer the prejudice, stigma, the refusal to even give me any services that poorer drug users would have. That was, that formed the basis of, do I want my children, and I have 2 children, my daughter's 35, my son's 19. Do I want my children to grow up in that environment where they fear to even speak about my dad uses drugs? It's not fair. It's not right that, I allow them to feel embarrassed about me. So those were the sort of motivating factors for me and for a group of very, involved people. We didn't use the term activists. We didn't really think we are activism or, those sorts of things. We just did these things because we felt it was needed.